This week, I'm asking you to do some analysis of the Jacobs article, which we read the first week. And what I'd like to see you doing is thinking about how Jacobs uses sources. So, is he bringing in different source voices as background information, as example or exhibit, as argument, or as method? I want you to think about how you see evidence of his research questions and the original research that he's done, how he uses other writers' expertise to build his own research story and his credibility, and then to think about which voices are standing out to you in the discussion board. And I thought I would get us started because this is a complex task by starting to model the kind of thinking that I would like to see you doing. So we can go to my notes, my first couple of pages of the Jacobs piece, and talk through my thinking about how he's using sources. So we get to the very first page, and before the essay even starts, Jacobs has given us this quote to ground our thinking. So it's this quote from Anne Zweig from a book. And Zweig writes that getting to know home is the most human and necessary of occupations. And to give that power of observation to students is to give them something of infinite value. And Jacobs uses this quote as a preface before he even begins his essay. And in my thinking, he's using this as an argument source because this is connected directly to the thesis of his paper. Then he's using this Zweig quote as an argument. If we look at the first page, there is a quote here, and it's a quote from a student paper. So that's really interesting because it gives a sense of Jacobs' research that he's collected. So it's his own original research, and he's excerpted a quote from Daniel's paper. And I'm going to say the way that he's using this quote from Daniel's paper, it's an exhibit or an example source. If part of Jacob's argument is that teaching place-based writing connects with students in a new way, then bringing in an excerpt from a student paper that illustrates that is a good example of using a source as an exhibit. On the second page, there were a couple of things that I noticed. The first thing is that Jacobs is bringing in this quote down here at the bottom of the first column from Terry Tempest Williams. And this Terry Tempest Williams quote, Terry Tempest Williams is making an argument because she writes, "I believe if we are to move toward a peaceful future, then it requires us to think about story." And Jacobs writes, like Williams, so he's directly responding to this quote, "I believe that place-based writing affords students an opportunity." So he's using the Williams quote as an argument to enhance his own argument. He's agreeing with Williams to ground his argument. I hope that this is making sense to you. It gives a sense of how Jacobs is using different sources to do different things as examples, as argument. I also want to call your attention to how he's structuring this paper. So he has this nice introduction that's framed by what's actually happening in his own classroom. And then he moves into an argument that moves beyond his classroom. So I would challenge you to, in the second page, to try to find a thesis. And I also want you to notice how Jacobs is giving us a sense of what the structure of his argument and his paper is going to look like. So he writes, "What follows are four thematic features of place-based writing that I believe make it an indispensable part of curriculum." And then his first heading is one, the first feature. So this is just a little bit of how you might start to engage with this reading, to identify sources, and to think about the structure and how it might inform your literature review.